Hey. This is Urban Politics, and I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music. Let's get right into it like a car and drive. There's a whole bunch of news to talk about, so let's talk about it. Number one, I wanted to talk about gun violence in America. Of course, it's off the hook. There have been two mass shootings in America, one in Colorado, one in Atlanta. Ted Cruz criticizes Democrats for their inaction. Number one, he gets more money from the NRA, which is the National Rifle and Gun Association of America, than any other person in Congress. I didn't even know that. That was an interesting statistic. They had to share it because here's a guy talking about the Democrats in action. Here he is, a Republican, and most often it's Republicans who get a ton of money from the NRA. Now, I can say that without even looking it up. I just know that from following politics. Most often is Democrats, and they get tons of, these checks that the NRA writes, these are huge checks. Huge checks. I'm talking $38 million, $19 million, $21 million, $56 million. I'm not making these numbers up. You let your little fingers do the walking. You can Google this information yourself. It will astound you. It knocked me over when I seen some of these numbers. But now you see why the Republican Party and some other of our Congress men and women are always really covering real tough for the NRA because they get a boatload of cash from these guys. Anyway, they did in the past. Right now, I reported on this a couple of shows ago, the NRA is going through a bankruptcy. So we'll see if the NRA has it in their coffers to write these humongous checks that they've been writing to people in Congress. Maybe we will start to see some things change if their money dries up. But anyway, you got Mr. Cruz talking crap. Like I said, he gets more money than anybody from these guys. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy says, we don't have a gun problem, we have an idiot problem. If you ask me, our idiot problem is that we let idiots like him into Congress. That is redonkulous. Are you serious? There's another guy trying to take the onus off of them, trying to take the onus off of the NRA, and put it on you, the American people. We don't have a gun problem. We have an idiot problem. We have to stop idiots from getting guns. We have to stop everyone from being able to get a gun so easily. That comes from legislation. So, Mr. Kennedy, you don't get to throw the blame away that easy, okay? Congress has been kicking this down the road forever. Why? Because they get those big checks I was just talking about. These chickens have come home to roost. You got to deal with this. Don't put it on people telling we got an idiot problem. Our only problem is letting idiots like you serve, and then they don't do anything for us once we put them there in Capitol Hill. So there's our idiot problem. This dude, Mr. Kennedy, tried to equate gun violence to drunk driving, and accidentally made the case in favor for gun legislation. He was saying something about how, we have a bunch of drunk drivers and what do? We make people get a license and da-da-da. Well, if we regulated guns the way that we regulate driving, we would have a lot less gun violence. So while he was trying to draw that bridge, he really was making a case for gun legislation. Then later on, he walked it back and was saying, we don't need legislation right now. Everybody needs to cool out, and this is not the moment for action. They always come with that. As soon as some people pass from gun violence, this is not the moment for action. Then when is it? A week after they're going? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month or two? After that, you're hoping that America has forgot about it and moved on, and that usually happens? No. No. We need to grieve these people who have passed, and then we need comprehensive gun legislation. Comprehensive bipartisan gun legislation. The only thing that'll help a dying nation that's killing itself. Quote, Phys Ed. Anyway, moving on. The Daily Beast said it best in an article that I read. They said the GOP's new rule is that white people can shoot and black people can't vote. That says it best. When I saw that, I said, wow, Daily Beast, y'all paying attention. That's what's up. Check that out. The GOP's new rule. White people can shoot, black people can't vote. That's what's going on. They running around the country enacting all these different laws in all these different states, and we'll talk about it probably next show. I'm not going to get to it this show because that's definitely something to talk about, and we're going to get into the weeds on that voter suppression thing, but it's coming real tough from the right. And while all this other stuff is going on, we got COVID going on. We got all these other things we need to deal with. They're only interested in stopping people from voting and being mad about black people having guns, which is, or being mad about, or actually being okay with white people having guns and shooting and being mad about black people voting. Yeah, so there it is. That's what's going on with the GOP right now. And I think that's pathetic. It's disgusting. They haven't been the party of Lincoln in a long time. They need to get their stuff together. On another note, Joe Biden, recently he was asked about, having to run against Trump in 2024 and all this, and he laughed. And he kind of just, flipped it off and said, man, I don't even know if there'll be a Republican Party in 2024. I agree with that. People on Fox News got mad at that. They shouldn't get mad. They need to get active because their party is definitely dying. And some of the stuff y'all doing, it reeks of desperation. Okay, when you say that I'm hanging up the argument, I'm not even going to try to make my case to minorities. I'm not even going to try to make my case to women. I'm just going to stop them from voting. That reeks of desperation, and that lets me know that you know that your party is on its way out the door. Oh well, y'all need to get that fixed, as my brother would say. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about sad COVID news, because COVID is still a thing and it's killing people by the boatloads. Here it goes with the numbers. They're abysmal. 1,670,000 people have gotten corona in Ohio, in the state of Ohio. That's just here. 18,000 people have died from it. Legislation was passed to take the power from the governor to make orders mandatory, but because of other Republicans not liking the mask restrictions. Can you believe that? So basically, there was some legislation that passed that made it to where the governor, he can put out orders, but they won't be mandatory. Everybody won't have to abide by them. And they only did that because they were mad about the mask regulations. God forbid DeWine, as governor, try to save some lives. But then think about that. People in his own party, his own gang, took away some of his power. Because how dare he have the audacity to try to help us, to try to save some lives. Talking about we got to wear a mask. We don't want to wear a mask. We want to go out here and throw caution to the wind and risk our lives. And darn it, if DeWine won't let us do that, then we'll push legislation to take away some of his power. Not all of it, because he's still a Republican. But these are other Republicans. These ain't Democrats who did that. These are other Republicans. That goes back to what I was just talking about. How that party is on its way out. A house divided. Here you go. You got Republicans who push legislation to take away power from the Republican governor. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on. I want to talk about the Columbus Police Department. Why? I live in Columbus, so it's local news. All politics is local, so let's get local with it. Check me out. They ordered 6 police officers to answer questions about potential criminal misconduct by other cops during racial justice protests in downtown Columbus. Now, I'm going to tell you, I heard from a very good friend of mine. There's a lady I used to work with a million years ago. She watches the show. She was telling me how she was downtown and she was in an area where some clergy had came out. And she said they were, wearing the full regalia. They're wearing their robes and stuff. It was obvious that these were ministers from churches, and they got pepper sprayed. She said they got pepper sprayed right in front of me, Eddie. I witnessed it with my own eyes. Blows me away. Then I'm reading an article I hear about how Joyce Beatty, our representative, she got pepper sprayed. So there was all types of stuff going on during these racial riots that went on right here in downtown Columbus. Now these guys don't want to answer about it. Why? Because of the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Brotherhood. There you go. I've been saying that. I've said it ad nauseum. I'm going to say it again. We have to purge our police departments. We have to purge our military to get rid of this vein of white supremacy that exists in both organizations. It's there. You know that white supremacists have told their members to join these organizations because these are organizations you can be a member of and kill minorities with impunity and get off and not have to go to jail. So we know this. What are you going to do about it, government? That's all I'm saying. I'm going to leave it right there. Because, like I said, I've talked about that ad nauseum. Well, hold up. I'm not done yet. There's that. Then there was some bricks being left out for protesters, so-called bait bricks. A friend of mine, who's a good personal friend of mine, but also follow him on Instagram, he was showing those. So I seen that with my own eyes. Literally skids of bricks that were left out when all this turmoil was going on in downtown Columbus. What is that about? I can't help but think that those are bait bricks, like he was calling them. That was something that they left out, hoping that protesters on one would grab them and start throwing them at buildings and stuff. We already saw footage of cops who were breaking up buildings and putting Black Lives Matter spray paint on buildings to make it look like protesters were, tearing apart property or doing destruction to property. So we know this was going on. It was obviously also going on with the CPD in downtown Columbus. Now the investigation's going on. Now they acting salty because a few of them are going to have to rat out their brethren in the FOP. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, if you call yourself an upstanding citizen, if you call yourself trying to be a person who's about the law, then you won't have a problem doing the right thing and turning in your buddy who's a racist, even though he's a cop like you. So we'll see what happens with that. Watch this space. I'm going to keep reporting on that because that's very interesting. We'll see if justice actually gets done on that front. CPD, some of y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, and those who are real and are doing a good job, complete the job and turn in your boys who you know are garbage. Some of you CPD, how about this? I've talked to cops more back in the day when I was a lifeguard for Blackburn Swimming Pool than I do these days. And that cop told me he knew the crooked cops. He knew they were crooked. He knew the racist cops. He knew they were racist. He told me about the racism that he was taught at the police academy. All this goes on. You cops know this a heck of a lot better than I do. Start talking. Let's get rid of it. Let's do something about it. But that happens when we have some police officers who have the cojones to be real police officers and real life servants of the community. Moving on. Let's talk about the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, because that's fresh right there. Check this out. Rashida Tlaib and Pamela Jayapal, I'm probably not saying that right, Jayapal, proposed the bill. It would provide $2,000 a month during the pandemic and $1,000 a month for a year after the pandemic is over. That's huge right there. And that's really going back to one of the reasons I really liked Andrew Yang when he was running for the nomination, because he wanted to give every American over the age of 18 $1,000 a month. We need that. Now, his thing at that time was automation, how it was going to get rid of a lot of jobs. That's still a thing. That's still something that we need to plan for. But now COVID has changed everything. It's gotten rid of a lot of jobs. A lot of those jobs are going and aren't coming back. A lot of these places where people worked aren't going to be able to hire them because they can't have as many people, like your eateries or restaurants and bars. They can't have as many people in the space because people got a social distance. Ergo, you can have as many people on the staff because you don't have money to pay them. So we're going to need this right now. It's huge, and it's really good legislation, a good idea. Rashida Tlaib said it best. She said a one-time relief check doesn't cut it when the bills keep coming. We need monthly reoccurring checks. Quit messing around and send people the checks we promise them. And that right there, she put that in, the checks we promise them. When you had those two gentlemen running in Georgia, right, to win the Senate, which they did, what was promised? They said, if you want that stimulus, vote for us. But really, people voted for Democrats because they're voting for a government that will take care of them, that will look out for them. Now, when I say take care of them, some of y'all ain't going to take that the right way. I don't even know how to take care of me. I'll pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I don't need the government giving me no handouts. I've talked about that on this show. What do you think your tax dollars are doing? What do they go towards? Maybe you're different than me, but to me, I pay taxes so that when people need help from the government, they can get it because I paid into the government to help those people. I've paid into the government to help me. Should I need it? And right now, in the midst of this pandemic, we need it. So there's that. Here's why we need it. 1 in 7 families don't have enough food. 1 in enough families, don't have enough food. More than 8 million have been pushed into poverty, and 1 million people are filing for unemployment a week. So that's really, really bad. That's sad. That's really, really sad, man. Think about that. 1 in 7 families don't have enough food to eat. More than 8 million people pushed into poverty during this pandemic. They weren't poor before, but they darn sure poor now. 1 million people filing for unemployment a week. Yeah, every unemployment system around America is overwhelmed. And we see now 1 million people filing for unemployment a week. That is crazy. Those numbers are unimaginable, but that's what's going on now. So we definitely we need this money, and we need it now. The American people need it now. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, this is too much, and people definitely sit on the right would say that, but once again, I want to remind people that you have places like, and I always say Canada, because it's the only one that comes off the top of my head, giving its citizens $8,000 a month. Now, I said that to my mother. She was like, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But if you were doing that, then some of the things that America, if you notice, is doing to backtrack and hopefully give people the money that they need and deserve, you wouldn't need to do. See what I'm saying? In Canada, they're not going to have to run around here doing this, this child tax credit that we're about to talk about next, and that's huge, and we need that here in America. Thank God for the people pushing this legislation. But in Canada, they won't need that because they're already giving people the $8,000 a month. Some of these other things, when Joe Biden became president, and then he gives people this, this stimulus and all that because the other president, anyway. But my point being... They won't have to mess with that in Canada because they were already giving their citizens $8,000 a month. They weren't messing around or playing games with this. They knew it was a pandemic and they treated it as such from rip or off rip. So there's that. Moving on. I want to talk about this child tax credit that I talked a little bit about a minute ago, but now let's get really into it. It's $3,600. That $3,600, 5 and under will get $3,600 or $300 a month. And 6 to 17-year-olds will get up to $3,000 or $250 a month. Or, should I say their parents or their households will get this money. It's going to be from July to December. The payments will be automatic for those who file their 2020 tax returns by May 17th. So make sure you do that. You will need to file a return even if you don't regularly file a return to get the payments. So people out there, need to know that, especially if you are economically disadvantaged and you don't do a tax return or you don't work or whatever, get money that way. You still need to do that. There's a tax return, I forget what they call it, but you could talk to somebody who does taxes, whoever does your taxes, or find somebody to do your taxes they never have, and they can tell you this thing that you file if you don't work or whatnot. But you'll need to file that to get this child tax credit. So make sure that you do that. The child payments will phase out for individuals making $75,000 a year and couples making $150,000 a year. There will be a portal online to update info by July 1st. So look for that. The government will be putting out a portal to where, you can update your family info or anything that's changed since you filed taxes. That'll be going down July 1st. Joe Biden wants to make these payments permanent. Love to hear that. There's another reason why you put Democrats in office. Once again, I'm an independent. I am not a Democrat. I'm definitely not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But that right there, this Democratic President Joe Biden, he wants to make this permanent. Now, this would be a permanent program, a permanent entitlement. Get ready for that to come up. You're going to start to hear that word again, entitlements. Here's another entitlement program, and Americans love entitlements, so they'll vote for this, just like they voted for the American Care Act, another entitlement program. What does that mean, entitlement? Well, I'm a human being, yeah, there are some things that we're entitled to. And I think as a human being, you are entitled to safety and comfort. So if this is an entitlement program, oh well. People, don't run from that terminology, because that ain't meant to do nothing but make you feel bad about the government doing right by you. Anyway, that's an entitlement program that I'll vote for 100 times because we need it. The White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, she had said that they're discussing making it a permanent program with Congress right now. That's great. And the lump sum will be available in 2021. So that $3,600, you can get that all at once if you wanted to, but not this first year that they're doing the program. You'll have to wait till 2021. And then you can get it all in one lump sum, and that's cool too. Some people would rather have that. Now, there are some people who will like the option of getting $300 a month because your bills come up once a month. So it'd be better for some people to have it like that so they can budget it out. They can make it a part of their monthly budget, and that way it'll probably be sustained better. It'll probably last a little bit longer, and it'll go towards things it needs to go to. If you're a person like me, you want the money all up front because I don't need nobody else deciding when and how I spend my money. Let me do it. You know, that's why I'm not a big fan of a lot of bills or stuff that comes directly out of my account. I don't do that. I don't do that because I'll decide when I'm ready to pay you. I don't need you deciding when it's time for me to pay you. So there's that, but to each his own, to each her own. That's how that goes. Let me get on to the last thing I'm going to talk about here before I get to my brew of the week. The Fed has charged a lot of people with a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, the pandemic, people already in this country are thirsty. Everybody's money hungry, but this pandemic has definitely brought out the worst in some people. And let's see and talk about some of the charges that you and I's federal government has against some of our fellow citizens. Check it out. The Fed has charged 474 defendants with fraud schemes against 569 individuals and 56 federal districts all over America. It gets worse. 120 are charged with Paycheck Protection Program fraud. One guy got $17 million by filing dozens of fraudulent loan applications, then used the money for homes, jewelry, and luxury cars. Go figure. 140 people are charged with federal unemployment insurance fraud. One stole $499,000 in jobless benefits. $580 million was seized by the Department of Justice and Secret Service agents in connection with a loan program meant to help small businesses and charities. That's sad. That is sad. And you know, when you read all that, then you think to yourself, really? Like, is it that bad out here? Yeah, it's that bad out here. And unfortunately, I think the pandemic, it just made that worse for some people. You're always going to have some people who are on the take, looking to scam, looking to run a scheme or two to get some quick cash or whatever. But the way you had that last administration, he whose name shall not be mentioned, Donald, that dude, they kind of did this thing so hand-fisted. They kind of just threw money out. They were making it rain. And I've always went on this show talking about the American government breaking bread with the American people. So Lord knows I'm not poo-pooing that, but there's a way to do everything. And oversight is not a bad thing. Now, you always hear Republicans go on and on and on about oversight. We need oversight. We got people taking advantage of the SNAP program. That's food stamps. We got people who don't need it. Then I read some articles even about the stimulus program. How many people got stimulus and really didn't need it? I've talked about this on this show. Even people who are still working and you claim really didn't need it, they still needed it because of different reasons and different situations. So with that said, you always going to have that. But at the same time, it's sad that the pandemic kind of brought out the stealing spirit in some of us. It brought out the giving spirit in a lot more of us. That's good to see. But some of these people, they were on the take before, and it just made it easier when you had these different avenues through the pandemic. That doesn't mean that we don't do all the things that we're doing for those who do need it. I've talked about it all the time. Whenever they talk about throwing out the baby with the bathwater, that's what they're talking about. Okay? If you got a government program, let's say 100 people are on it, 80% of them really need it, 20% of them are probably using it and don't need it. But we're not going to get rid of it because of those 20%. We're going to keep it because that 80% really needs it. And that 20%, we're going to charge that to the game, as the kids would say. Okay? Because we still want to help that 80%. We don't help 8 people because 2 people are going to abuse the program. See what I'm saying? Babies with bathwater. Anyway, moving on. Let's get on to my beer of the week. The beer of the week is one of my favorite beers. This is a beer I used to drink a million years ago when I was younger. Honey Brown. They sell this in the hood. This is probably one of the better beers that you'll get in the hood because this is not malt liquor. And this is just a really good beer. It says Genesee Speciality. I didn't even know they're the ones who made this. Honey Brown. I used to drink this all the time because it was on tap at BW3's. We go to BW3's for wings, and then they had Honey Brown on tap. They may still, and if they do, I suggest that you go and get you some because this right here is some of the most smoothest, delicious beer that you'll ever have in your life. It's called Honey Brown, and it has a kind of a honey kickback flavor taste to it. Delicious. Honey Brown, it goes hard. It's a great beer. If you have a little bit of money in your pocket, find yourself with a Honey Brown in your hand. I'm looking here. Yeah. My time is up. I actually did real good on time this week. So, big up to me. Once again, this is Urban Politics. I'm Phys Ed Music, your humble host. If you dig what you're watching here, please like and subscribe. Tell a friend. You know what I'm saying? Have that friend tell their mother, tell their father, tell their cousin, tell whoever. Get up with your boy. We can keep the conversation going. Always. For those who want to give me a little pushback or drop a line, hit me up at physedmusic@gmail.com. In a minute here, there'll be an Urban Politics Gmail. I haven't gotten around to doing that yet because I got a life and I work myself to death just like the rest of you all. So, with that said, we will do it again next week. And once again, as always, see you around like a donut.